And we're live.
And we are live. I think I had a little bit of a glitch right there. So what's going on, everybody? Anthony here at 6Scale Mafia. Tonight we have a special guest, Anieb from Kinetiquettes Studios. Thank you so much for coming this evening, or this morning for you.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And I think we have to have and you can still hear us now, right? Because I know we had to have two in here, but everything's audio's good for you.
Yep, all's good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, and of course, Mario.
Hey,
as always.
What's going on,
Welcome.
man? No, happy to be here tonight, man. And just getting over this cold, bro. But you know,
yeah, no.
We'll go through it. We'll go through it, man. We'll get through it. It's all good.
All right. Well, shoot. Well, thank you again. I know it is morning for you guys. Are in Singapore, correct?
That's right.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's appreciate the time difference. It's a little bit late for us on our side here, guys. So everybody tuning in this evening, thank you for coming in this evening right now for that. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I was looking. I know a lot of people don't know that what you guys do exactly as far as statues and everything. Is there anything you might be able to inform everybody, let them know, like, kind of where this kind of came from, or how you decided to get into?
So Kinetiquettes started in 2014. So we were just artists in the video game industry. So we are. Sorry about that. I think
no, you're okay.
Yeah. So we originally were like a group of friends in the video game industry working as video game developers, and also in the film side of things. So my background is actually in animation. So I graduated in animation, and I was working in some video game companies. You may have heard of like Ubisoft as an animator. So while working in video games, I was doing some like traditional sculpture on the side just for fun, which kind of became like a hobby turned to almost like a commission-based work that I was doing while working in video games. So people would approach me to make sculpture. So this was back in like 2011, 2012. So like that was not even in the age of the digital era where everything is done in the PC and the computer. I used to sculpt by hand traditionally. So I used to do character commissions while working in video games. So what happened is one day I came together with a few friends and said, hey, we want to do officially licensed characters that we love. So, we set up this studio, and one of the first licenses, which we still have now, is the Street Fighter license. So that was the first license we started out with.
Nice.
So that became like the official start of Kinetiquettes in 2014. And even back then, we were like all working, day jobs, and then still, doing this thing on the side.
So it was a passion project that turned into.
Yeah, so over the years, we've done a few releases for Street Fighter. Now we're doing like SNK stuff, Arc System Works stuff, like from Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, King of Fighters. And, I know King of Fighters is not that big in the US, but it's quite big in like South America and Europe, from what I understand, also in Asia as well. But
huge.
Yeah. So, and also at the same time, we have like some anime licenses we started to work with. So again, like, we've been around for some time. We have some, so people in the industry know Kinetiquettes. But recently what happened was that we got acquired by 𝗕𝗔𝗥𝗖𝗢. So again, it's an international brand of designer toys company that they're now expanding into the high-end collectibles market. So we are one of the first studios, in fact the first studio that they acquired. So we are actually under the 𝗕𝗔𝗥𝗖𝗢𝗡 umbrella, but of course we are still operating as Kinetiquettes as a brand itself. Yeah, and it's only until recently and since last year that we have started to be like kind of full time in the business. Before that, we've been like, you know, we had day jobs and we had, you know, other things that we're doing. And it's since the acquisition we got acquired, we are now fully, you know, all our time is for the game business basically. So
Oh yeah. Wow, I
That's
bet.
good.
So
That's good,
so
man.
that's going to be able to, do you think that's going to help kind of facilitate like a more like a higher volume approach then essentially?
yes,
Like moving forward?
yeah. So previously we had like releases, 1 or 2 releases a year, you know, and projects took longer to get to customers' hands. But now with being part of the 𝗦𝗔𝗩𝗘𝗥 group, we are like a lot more efficient. And in fact, like this year, we've already started to launch projects almost every month. So, you know, one of our, you know, goals is that this year we will have at least one launch every month for the rest of the year. So
Wow.
definitely the volume wise, yeah, it's definitely going to be more now that we are fully focused on the business. So it was a big change for us. But at the same time, we are, you know, even though we are under the 𝗦𝗔𝗩𝗘𝗥 group, we are kind of autonomous, doing our own thing. They've given us the freedom to, you know, do more of what we have been doing, basically.
I could see. Yeah, I mean, you have all the these are all great licenses too. I mean, I know maybe I know what you mean, like, you know, in South America, of course, and a lot of Asia, but I mean, a lot of it's still very popular here too, as well. You know, King of Fighters, Blaze Blue, maybe not so much, in kind of niche tournaments and whatnots, but everything is looking great. I mean, going down that road to see if you have Monster Hunter as well.
So we have done like a lot of the Capcom IPs like Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter, which is Monster Hunter has been quite popular for us because I think we were one of the only studios outside of Japan, outside of Capcom, that started doing Monster Hunter. We were the first to do the high-end collectibles for Monster Hunter outside of Japan. Yeah, and we were looking forward to doing more Monster Hunter there. Yeah, it's a big brand for Capcom as well, other than Street Fighter,
Yeah.
of course.
Right. Well, yeah, Street Fighter, of course, but yeah, but the Monster Hunter is huge. Even here, right? I'm sure Mario, you're familiar with it as well.
A little bit, you know. But like I said before, the one of the main ones that comes to mind is Street Fighter. I think that's still very much alive and well here in the States. You know,
Oh yes.
we mentioned sooner, man, that we're seeing the stuff in the Cisco world, you know, come out, you know, recently from Iconic Studios, and now, you know, just to see some representation, you know, with Kinetiquettes, it's also pretty cool as well. So I'm pretty sure you guys are seeing the you know, the sales from that particular IP as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's one of the reasons why we still have that license and we're still doing it.
yeah, it's doing really well. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Kadeem, you mentioned before that you started off hand sculpting, right? I'm just wondering, and I'm sure, are you still doing that now, or is everything pretty much transitioned to digital sculpting these days?
Yeah, it's mostly digital now. There are some projects where we do some hand sculpting with some artists. Like, of course, like I'm not doing all the projects myself. I mean, we are working with a lot of different sculptors and artists from all over the world now.
Mm-hmm.
But most of it is digital. And yeah, there's very little. Like there was a Monster Hunter project that we did traditionally, and also 3D. So it was like 3D printed as a base, and then the artist that we work with actually hand sculpted the details on the 3D print. And
Oh
then
wow.
we had pure hand sculpted statues as well. But yeah, but to be honest, like most of the things that we do now is digital, because it's not that it's better, but it's more like in terms of efficiency, it's easier to like iterate and change things on digital. So yeah, but I personally like traditional sculpture. Like, yeah, it's more fun, but it's also harder and takes longer. So there's that.
It's a
That
little
is
bit. It's a bit
true.
of a like a lost art form these days, isn't it? I mean, not just with digital sculpting, but we see it even with like hand drawn animation as well. I mean,
Yep.
we see things just convert, to digital, and I'm sure it's making life easy, or much easier on the artists, that are out there. And like you mentioned, you can get more of that. It's more efficient. You can get some more of that detail, in there to, for the masses. But yeah,
Yep.
man, that's pretty cool. I had no idea that you guys were doing hand sculpting, man. That's interesting to hear.
Yeah, our first couple of releases were all fully traditionally sculpted. It wasn't at that time even like digital wasn't even a thing for toys yet
Uh huh.
back in 2014. Yeah, so we did have some earlier projects that were purely sculpted by hand.
What was your first hand sculpted release, if you don't mind me asking, man?
The very first product that we launched was the Evil Ryu statue from Street Fighter 4, and then
Oh.
there was an accompanying piece which was the 𝗕𝗘𝗥𝗖𝗢𝗎 statue. It was also fully traditionally sculpted. We even
Oh.
did we even did the Ken statue from Street Fighter as well, which was fully traditionally sculpted. Yeah, our one of our first releases, which was digital, was the Devil May Cry statues, which was done digitally.
Mm.
Yeah.
I really like Ryu and Akuma a lot. Is because of
Yeah,
that?
and
Go
it's
ahead.
funny you mentioned that because when we first launched Evil Ryu and Akuma, we actually didn't do the traditional um, Ryu and Akuma that people know. Like we did the very like niche costume and version of them. So people were like, as
Uh-huh.
a business, like, why are you doing such weird choices of characters? But we felt that they were cool designs, so we just did them anyway. But usually when people
That's
get the
bold.
Street Fighter licenses, yeah, they usually do like the traditional looking
I just kind
Ryu.
of buy the book
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
standard. I was
But that kind of
curious.
that kind
Oh,
of
go ahead,
helps you
Mario.
stands out a little bit. That kind of helps you stand out a little bit more too. I mean, amongst the crowd, considering that most product is traditional looking characters, as to where you guys chose to go the opposite route. Was
Yeah.
that did that work out in your favor?
Yeah, it was interesting because like when we first came up, people were like, "Oh, why are you doing this kind? Why didn't you just Ryu, Chun-Li, or something like that?" But then we did manage to sell out those statues quite quickly, so people it did get eyes on us, and I think coming back to that, when we first started out, I mean, it did kind of differentiate us and as a new studio, but I think it's also an approach that we are kind of going back to nowadays. So we are trying to do characters and representation of designs of characters that are not as big or popular. How, and to speak to that, it's also the licenses that we acquire. So, we're not
Yeah.
going for the licenses that are mass, like maybe not Marvel, DC kind of stuff, which are of course Star
Mm.
Wars. All these are like very mass and popular, but a lot of people are already doing them. So what we are aiming for is licenses that are a bit more niche or not have not been done before. So that's the
Mm.
approach, kind of like our strategy moving forward as well. So we're going back to that kind of root strategy that we oh well, it was not really a strategy, we just did what we thought was cool, but now it's
Yeah.
an
But now so it's
intentional.
practical, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome. That is actually really cool. I actually was curious about that as far as with Capcom. Is the creative liberty there all across like all of Capcom, or is it just Street Fighter or any? And the reason I ask is because, as Mario knows and a few others, I have been looking at your Chun-Li statue, right? And for example, with it, which beautiful piece by the way,
Thanks.
that I noticed like with her base, it kind of takes references from a lot of different stages of hers, like throughout the games, right? So I was curious, is this like, do you have that kind of freedom to kind of experiment like with stuff like this, or are they very like, is Capcom like saying you have to like adhere, like in other words, do you have like a lot of expression, like freedom to stay like as long as you're within the IP?
I think so far, I think most licenses or licensors that we work with have been quite open to like interpretation and expression, especially Capcom. For the Street Fighter license, they've been very open about our ideas and things that. So again, like when we did this Chun-Li statue, I mean, we specifically intended, what you see here in terms of the base references to the different games, and even the look of the character. They didn't like restrict us that you have to look a certain way. In this case, we worked with the quite well-known artist 𝗕𝗘𝗥𝗖𝗢𝗡, Stanley 𝗕𝗕𝗥𝗖𝗡, where he designed and directed this statue with us. So I mean, generally Capcom has been quite. I mean, of course, there are some licensors, especially the anime licensors, where they have specific requirements for characters. But I think on the game side of things, and especially Capcom, they've been quite open about our ideas and expressions. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because that's what I wasn't sure. Like, if you were to, like, for example, they didn't necessarily say you have to have her in like this classic outfit. You could have maybe done like a Street Fighter Alpha or a different color or things like that. Like, are you basically the IP is just blanketed as Street Fighter? As
like so our license covers basically any and everything Street Fighter. So we are kind of allowed to pick any version of her and then any version costume and then work from there. So and when we design our own like statue, it doesn't, again, the only requirement, I guess, from Capcom side of thing is that, if you're choosing this version of her, you want to follow the costume accuracy for that version.
Right.
And so in this case, we chose the classic, so they wanted the costume accuracy for the classic costume. So we couldn't go and change her classic costume in any way, but we have the option to choose any version of her in which has been released so far.
So this, you have full reign essentially. Yeah, that is very awesome. Because I noticed that with the logo, it's just Street Fighter. So I was thinking, whereas I think like with Iconic right now, they've I don't know if you're familiar with Iconic, but they just recently put out their Ryu and their Ken is up for pre-order in 6 scale, but it's Street Fighter 5, right? So it's like locked in within that, presumably, like so far. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm guessing like for them their license is specifically Street Fighter 5, whereas for us it's the whole Street Fighter brand itself. So all the different versions, Alpha, to Street Fighter 2, Third Strike, and all that. Yeah.
Even perhaps Street Fighter 6.
Yes. So this is also something we are working with them right now to include Street Fighter 6. Of course, Street Fighter 6 hasn't been launched yet. So,
right.
Of course, when it launches, then we are also hoping Street Fighter 6 is part of our license, and we can do more products from that game as well.
That'll be really cool.
And coming back to, I think one of the chat viewers are asking, will we be doing Resident Evil?
Yes, that's a good question.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's something, because we have been working with Capcom for so long. So, it's definitely something we are considering, like adding more and more of the Capcom IPs, especially now with Resident Evil being quite a big, popular game right now with all the remakes and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, huge resurgence with the remakes.
Yeah.
Is that something that you would be personally interested in doing?
Oh hell yeah! I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I love Resident Evil, and I really I just finished Resident Evil 4 remake, so really enjoyed that. I mean, as campy as Resident Evil is, it's very fun. It's a very fun. I mean, I grew up like some of my first PlayStation games were Resident Evil, so yeah, it's very nostalgic for me, and would love to work, on that IP.
For me, I remember when I first got my first PlayStation, right, the PlayStation 1, it was all because of Resident Evil. I was at my friend's house and he had a PlayStation, and I remember just staying up all night watching him play this game, and I thought this was the coolest game I had ever seen. And so when that's what was for me when I first got my PlayStation. I bought Resident Evil, and Street Fighter Alpha. And that was and I think that do you remember that game Battle Arena Toshinden?
I think I've heard of it.
That was
but
on the PlayStation as well. Another fighting game, but those two, Street Fighter Alpha, Resident Evil, obviously both Capcom, but both those like really sucked me in. I mean, Street Fighter I've been playing since the first in the arcades, but I really enjoyed Alpha. So it's cool to hear that you have everything then. So you could potentially be putting out some Alpha statues as well.
Yeah, in fact, our upcoming statue for Cammy that we kind of showcased a little bit back in December.
I kind of saw a little bit of that.
Yeah, so that version of Cammy is based on the Alpha games. So it's the Killer Bee costume. So yeah, I mean, we're doing a Cammy which is not the classic Cammy, but more of the Killer Bee version from Alpha. So
I wonder if I can
yeah, we haven't launched it yet, but we did show previews of it back in December in a con. And in fact, since we've revealed it, we've gone back and kind of revamped some things of it or improved of it because the launch is upcoming. It should be launched next month or in June. So, yeah,
next month or June. All right, because I remember seeing it. I'm trying to see if I can pull a video up here. Where did I remember seeing this?
It could be on YouTube. Yeah, it could be on YouTube.
Yeah, let me see if it's on YouTube because I saw that. I think, like you said, a couple months back, and I didn't know at the time. Let's see if I can. Cammy, because that's really cool. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
With your product, you tend to stick with just one particular scale because these are these Street Fighter? Are these quarter scale or are these 6 scale? These look kind of.
We initially started out with 1/6, but now most of our releases are 1/4. Yeah, quarter scale.
Quarter scale. Do you find that actually more that draws more attention, the bigger pieces rather than the smaller ones? I would imagine with most collectors these days.
Yeah, I think for high-end collectors, they prefer quarter scale over 1/6. I mean, although we also keep in mind that quarter scale takes up more space. So when we design the statue, we also try to keep it like compact so that it doesn't take up too much space for the collectors.
Yeah, the smaller footprint is definitely appreciated, when possible. But some of these diorama pieces, I can understanding how much space they can actually take. I mean, have you guys? So I'm assuming right now 1/3 is probably out of the question, then, right?
Yeah, I mean we're not leaning towards 1/3 at the moment, but yeah, I mean we're just trying to keep to the quarter scale footprint. Yeah, even if we were to do 1/3, we'll probably do, something that doesn't take up as much space. Yeah, probably not a full body 1/3. Yeah.
Now, is this the one we were talking about that I saw?
Yep.
Oh. Yeah. This now it's just a night. This is like a 30-second preview here, but
yeah. So this was the early preview that we showed, but we've kind of revamped her. Yeah. But of course, you can see it has a very similar theme to the Chun-Li statue, where you have like all these,
like with the base.
Yeah, the Easter eggs of the different games and references. Yeah.
Oh, this is a very short video. Let's see if we can. Yeah, this one is really good. Especially like you were saying with the base. I love that. I love the nods to everything in the bases. I think that's super cool. Hey, Hoth's Hometown Hero is in the house as well. Thank you for coming through. We got Cellbat's wondering, how do you decide which character will be coming up next?
I think it's something that we've always decided based on which characters resonate with us, like which characters that we would love to do and we know, and then kind of also look at like whether the character is something the customers would want. But it's always based on the fact that whether we love this character or not, whether this character is something the design of the character is cool, or something we can do something an interesting statue out of. So that's the very first criteria, is that do we love the character, do we think the design is interesting, and then maybe we consider, okay, we also have to consider like whether people will want this as a statue or not. So those are the first two, and then the secondary is whether people want it or not. So I know in a business point of view, it's a bit the other way around, where you want, okay, is it a popular character, and then you want to do it. But if we don't find the character interesting, or it's not a character we resonate with, we generally don't tend to lean towards that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Because again, if it's, depending on, like you said, the popularity of it, is it going to be worth going through? I am curious. So between the Chun-Li and the Cammy, this is kind of like a restart of sorts. You did the Guile. Which figure or statue was the first in this new wave of Street Fighter?
I would say it's Chun-Li. Yeah, I think it's Chun-Li, because we did do a quarter scale Ryu and Evil Ryu together. It's actually two products which can be connected. It was a quarter scale Ryu and Evil Ryu quite some time back. That was our first foray into quarter scale. But in terms of the new wave of quarter scale that we'll be doing for Street Fighter, yeah, Chun-Li was the first. Yeah.
Okay, and then we had there's Guile, and then Cammy.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot one statue which was quarter scale as well. Is the Mai Shiranui from King of Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I believe, the first female statue that we did in quarter scale. But in terms of the series and this new wave of releases, Chun-Li was the first.
Okay. Just thinking, because if people out there are wanting to get in on specifically like this style of line, it's still fairly early on. Without feeling like they've missed out, or they'd have to go backtrack on a lot of. Because Mario, you know what we're talking. You know how it is with statues that way.
Right. Well, right now, I mean, it's on the ground zero. I mean, with the with a product launching right now with a line like this, so just the potential. Be coming out. But yeah, that last piece you were just talking about, that Mai Shiranui, she's a beautiful piece, man. Absolutely beautiful piece. Yeah,
super popular too.
Right now. Yeah. I love the that whole dial setup you guys got right there. The pose is great, and yeah, it's a fantastic piece, man.
Thanks. Yeah, that project taught us a lot of things as well. Like, it was being our first female statue. We learned a lot of things in terms of, like, one thing people may or may not know is that female characters are harder to do and get right compared to guys, because there's more room for error when it comes to guys, especially in the high-end statue market, like the final quality, the final paint job, and everything. But when it comes to female characters, it's a lot harder, because people are more strict, and people will notice a lot more differences in your final product compared to your marketing pictures. So I think that taught us a lot of things that we even implemented into our Chun-Li statue, which kind of helped us, like, get better at our production and QC, and make sure that, especially with female characters, you can't like.
They're much more scrutinized.
You're much more scrutinized. So, beautiful. Again, we're still a studio, a small studio, and we're still like doing a lot of projects. But at the same time, like, we're always learning, we're always improving, and we're always trying to make the newer product better than the last. So, I mean, moving forward, we only hope to improve everything that we do. Even though, like, the reception for Chun-Li, for Mai has been good. We've never like stopped thinking that, okay, every new release has to be better than the last. So in fact, for Chun-Li, we've already shipped a lot of the statues out to the customers, and based on customer feedback, and some people, saying that, oh, you guys did an interesting thing with the translucent resin on our skin. Like we implemented a translucent resin kind of material for her skin to give it more depth. But at the same time, there was some feedback that in under some lighting situations, the skin felt a bit too translucent than it should be. So what we actually told all our customers is that we are going to we are remaking all the parts that are translucent for her in a non-transparent material. So we are actually going to be sending out the non-translucent skin parts to all our customers for no extra charge.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's even though a product that has been released and shipped to customers, we recently made an announcement that we've heard you, that while most of the customers were happy with the product, some have said, oh, that under some lighting conditions the skin looks too translucent. So we said, okay, never mind, we will make a non-translucent skin version, and those parts that have that translucent resin we will send out in a non-translucent resin version to you at no cost to the customer. So which will be shipping in maybe 2-3 months time. I mean, again, we always make sure that our customers are happy with the product. And I don't think there's many studios that can actually claim to have provide service to customers post product release or post.
Not like that. Yeah, not on the scale you're talking about, man. To where you're willing to replace every piece that's out there to send new customers. That's actually really great to hear, man. Considering you gather the feedback, take everything in consideration, and then if there's enough, out there to go ahead and offer replacement parts, that's really, really good of you, man.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, to be honest, it may be out of the 100% of Chun-Li's that the customers have received, maybe 10-20% have said, they would prefer a non-translucent skin. But I think that's more than enough for us to go ahead and say, never mind, it's going to be, we'll go ahead and produce it. And even though it's a cost on us, as long as the customer is happy. Yeah.
So when you guys do something like that, do you guys do enough to cover the full edition size just in case someone else says something, or do you guys do a minimum lot?
We're covering the full edition. No, we're doing the full editions. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So even those who are completely happy with their statue will receive. So they don't also feel really left out in a way. So we want to make sure everybody's covered.
Wow, that's awesome. No, because you're right. There's not many out there that would do that. Post, everything's done and shipped, and hey, here we're gonna go the extra step, and everybody gets this update or alternative, right? Because like you said, a lot of people like it the way it was, but for those who didn't, I think that's really awesome. Do you think that would be a situation moving forward with other pieces, if that kind of arose? Or
yeah, I mean, of course, it's a cost on us, so we want to avoid that as much as possible. Right. So again, every piece that we release, we learn something. But of course, if we had another product which people give feedback that, oh, we want this particular thing changed, or we prefer it this way, then sure, we'll take it into consideration and possibly re-release. But this also has taught us, as I said, if we are going to do the Cammy statue and when we launch it, we want to make sure it's all good, when then implement what we learned here to the next one, so we don't have to replace, or we don't have customers who say, oh, I would prefer it this way or the other.
That makes absolute sense, because you're right. You don't want to be, if you want to avoid it if possible, right? Right,
exactly.
Moving forward and things like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't wait. That Cammy looks amazing. You said that there's been updates since then as well.
Yeah. It's we resculpted her face, and we're trying to work out the composition of the base, because what we showcased at the con in December was just a work in progress prototype. So we've kind of re-engineered the base, made it a little bit more compact. We resculpted and repainted her face as well, improved it further. So yeah, we'll be kind of revealing and launching her pretty soon. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. After seeing that, and I just really appreciate also the care that's going into the bases, or because that's, you know, for you know, I have a couple of statues myself, but like with Mario, myself, we have a lot of 6 scale, you know, figures, but we still love statues, and seeing that's one thing that's sorely lacking in the 6 scale world is just nice, dynamic, you know, unique bases, and we're kind of seeing a little bit there and there, but I appreciate that. Looking at Cammy and Chun-Li, like that is, you can't achieve that stuff in figure form, having these just amazing dynamic bases, and that's what I'm really digging.
Yeah, it's definitely intentional in terms of the design, and we want to put in more story to the characters in the bases themselves, rather than, you know, standing on a piece of rock or something. You know, it tells a story about the character, and at the same time, you know, as I said, we were trying to keep things compact, so we want to keep the footprint still small and manageable, but still tell a story.
Well, I think job well done on both of those, because they definitely like that. I saw that too. She's got Bison's hat in there as well, and like that's it's like you said, it's the character. There's story within the base itself, which just brings everything like full circle to me, in my opinion. I mean, Mario, you're a fan of Street Fighter, so you know what I'm talking about, like with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like just in, you know, just some of these statues in general, man. I mean, just the idea of just telling a story with a diorama base like that, you know, it says a lot. I mean, recently, you know, I saw a piece in person that I didn't really consider picking up, but then the more I thought about it, because it really did tell a story, this entire piece, and it really the more I thought about it, the more it just drew attention to it. So I just ended up picking it up anyway, you know. But yeah, that's one of the things I really appreciate is a dynamic base like that does tell a story, definitely.
Yes. And I did want to, obviously it was Street Fighter, but I noticed it's not just Street Fighter as well, right? And we talked a little bit earlier before, but you've got Demitri here. You've got some Darkstalkers. Can you tell us maybe a little about that?
Yeah, so it's a recently launched statue of from Darkstalkers, our first Darkstalkers statue of Demitri.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's also in quarter scale, and you can see, you know, him on his throne with the demon version of him at the back. And I think one thing I can kind of reveal to you guys, which is we'll be officially announcing probably tomorrow, is that we are actually offering a different variant version of him, which is just him on the throne without the additional the demon at the back and the female character in front of him, which is supposed to be his kind of the food he's going to devour. But yeah, so we are actually offering a variant where he's just sitting on the throne, holding the skull and the wine glass, the so-called the wine glass holding the blood. So it's a simpler variant that people can order, which we will be launching, I think by the end of the week. Yeah. So.
Oh wow. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of cool. But this is too cool though. I would prefer this myself, just because that form is so awesome. But that's very cool. That, like you said, it gives people, you know, an alternative option, which I think is really cool. Hey, we have Christian Detours in the house. Shout out to Christian. He's over in Korea. So very cool, man. Appreciate you coming through this afternoon for you. Yeah, this is really cool. So I am kind of blown away by it, actually, because I just this in itself tells the story, and the fact that you have the girl with him as well. This is like really cool. Mario, I know you haven't really played much Darkstalkers, but
no, I know little to nothing about this character at all. But the artistry together in this entire thing is incredible. I mean, the throne. I mean, throne pieces sell. I mean, you can say what you want, but there's a lot of iconic pieces out there, that are basically throne based. And yeah, this is just a beautiful setup, with a swap out, with the female character here, this and the skull. The throne itself, looks incredible, with that other piece in the back. And yeah, I think you guys did a great job with this one as well, man. It looks really, really good. Again, like I said, I've got no reference to the character at all, but I mean, it has a lot of presence looking at it, But I just think the swap out with the female character says even more. It's like it's just more imposing.
Yes,
I really like that.
It's super, super cool. This you could probably, well, maybe, I don't know. Will there be more Darkstalkers? Is that something that you can say, or?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be doing more Darkstalkers characters. Yeah, especially some of the more
Morgan,
yeah,
Felicia.
definitely. We're looking into those characters for sure. Yeah.
Okay, those were the two I was thinking, or Lilith. Same kind of thing. But, ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, are you going to try to follow suit, perhaps, with the Darkstalker line? Would that be kind of more in lines how you're doing Street Fighter with these kind of dynamic bases that kind of define the characters? Kind of almost like Demitri here a little bit.
We may not take the same exact approach, but definitely with a composition that works for the character and something that tells a story again. I mean, it may not be the exact same format as the Street Fighter, Chun-Li or Cammy, but slightly different. But again, we want to do something that we want to do a representation that has not been done before. So yeah.
Well, even this tells a huge story, in my opinion. All right, and it's like Mario said, it's imposing. It doesn't have to be kind of over the top dynamic. I think in its own right, it's dynamic in itself. Just having him in the back like that makes it just defining for who he is as a character. If that makes sense. Mario, I know you're not too familiar with it, but that's when I see this, I see it. I see this is Demitri, this is Darkstalkers. You guys have the representation just right. I think. I think this looks amazing. I had no idea. Yeah, super cool. And then so the variant will be tomorrow announcement.
Yep, we'll probably announce it tomorrow or by the end of the week. Yeah, it's
Okay.
just basically the same version without the demon at the back and the girl. So it's a little bit more simpler. It also makes it, of course, more economical for people who want to get into this statue. So
Right, maybe they don't have because it is arguably it's taller.
quite tall.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's quite tall with that, and I can see some people may not necessarily want or need it to because it's in the back and you can't unless they have it positioned somewhere where they can see it in its entirety, things like that. So I totally get that. That's actually really cool. So he'll be the first in line for Darkstalkers. I can't wait. If you're gonna do Felicia and Morgan, yeah, okay, yeah, because that Chun-Li, and this is what I was telling Mario for a while now. I was looking at the Chun-Li. I thought, wow, and the reason that what attracted me the most, honestly, is the base. Believe it or not, because I mean, obviously it's Chun-Li, but seeing the base like that, that's like we were talking about. Like you're telling a story through all of their experiences in the games, like combined in this dynamic, the dynamic base and pose just makes it. That stood out to me. It's like you said it before, like there's a lot of companies doing a lot of different, styles, and what you're trying to do is completely unique, I think.
Yeah, I
in
mean that's the
comparison.
intention for when we approach this. Like we want to do something different. Like that's not something that's not done to death or generic. Like Chun-Li has been a character done so many times. So how do you make it different? So that's the intention.
Well, I think you succeeded on that. I love it. I love it. It looks like everything's in motion. Things are flying. It's all chaotic. She's in the good pose. It's dude. I am. I think because I'm a Capcom fan. I've always been. I've been a Street Fighter nut my whole life. Darkstalkers, Marvel vs. Capcom, but I know that's probably not a thing, you know, because Marvel situation.
Or could that be a potential loophole? You know, curious.
No, I think Marvel versus Capcom requires a license from both Marvel and Capcom, so I think there's a complication there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool too.
Oh yeah, because all those games like X-Men, Children of the Atom, you know, that was all moving forward that birthed into Marvel vs. Capcom. So, but it's tricky, right? Because now it's shared. You've got Marvel stuff here, so that's very difficult. But I love how you're focusing on a lot of fighting games, though. I mean, with King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, like you said, Blaze Blue. We've got Darkstalkers.
Yeah.
This I saw as well for people out in the chat that haven't seen. And again, I don't know if Mario, you played Samurai Showdown at all?
No, I haven't played this one yet either, man.
Mostly Street Fighter.
Mostly that's where I lived at, dude. Yeah.
See, yeah, but after Street Fighter, there was a huge boom of the era where TurboGrafx 16 and Neo Geo came out, and then SNK started really being. SNK was huge in the 90s. It really was, and I think it still is, but it was a big contender. I think at the time, I remember playing these in the arcades as well. So seeing you go down this line.
Yeah, I mean, I've always admitted, like in most of my interviews, that I've grown up as more of a SNK video games kind of guy. Like I grew up playing a lot of the SNK games in arcades rather than Street Fighter, to be honest. I became more of a Street Fighter fan after Street Fighter 4, after the resurgence of fighting games. But when it comes to the classic SNK game, that's where kind of my first foray into fighting games was. So Samurai Showdown, all the King of Fighter games, like these
Fatal Fury.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we are doing a lot of fighting games, and that's kind of our base and core. But as I said, like we are starting to now look at other licenses as well, which is not necessarily video games only, or fighting games specifically. We're also looking at like other licenses, again, which are not mainstream, but something that hasn't been done before, or the statues, or at least not in the high-end statue format. So yeah, but again, this is our kind of our core bread and butter, and what people know us to be for.
Well, yeah, and in this, these look great. These bring back what you're invoking, at least for me anyway, and I'm sure a lot of other people, is the memory, right? The memories of growing up in that era of the fighting games. I mean, like you said, the 90s was really big at that time, and SNK was huge. I mean, even later on, the ladder, which I wonder if this would even, well, I guess it would depend on outfit wise, but could something come out that was maybe branded like a Capcom versus SNK style piece?
I mean, license, in terms of the licensing format, it's a bit complicated because
they would like both have to share, or
both have to share. Yeah, both have to share and approve. But I mean, there are definitely interest from our end to do something like that, where you at least have the SNK and the Capcom characters, and since we are launching both characters from both licenses, people could potentially just buy a statue from either brand and put it together, and
right.
And
that was
display
my other.
Yeah,
because I thought about that too. Is like if you couldn't necessarily do something branded that way, but kind of behind the scenes, you know, you've created one character's base that almost looks like it's going to work perfectly with the other character's base from the other IP, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah,
Once
yeah,
you put them
I get what
together,
you mean.
yeah, stuff like that maybe you could do, because then it's not branded, and like you said, people can put them together and be like, wow, it looks like they belong, you know, they looks like they belong together.
Yeah,
which is very, very cool. It's very cool. Trying to see if there was, damn. So we have Chun-Li. Cammy's going to be up soonish.
yeah.
Okay.
In,
and then
in probably May or June.
Okay, not too far away at all. Okay. My question that I was wondering too, though, is because I had seen Chun-Li and everything. With Cammy coming out, once she comes up, what are the projected, I guess, like turnaround time from announcement to ship? Is that fairly?
Usually it's usually within 1.5 to 2 years. So usually for high-end statues, it's longer, just because of the scale and complexity of the pieces. But usually especially now with our more focused and efficient timelines, or production cycles, we are able to launch a statue within 1.5 to 2 years of the launch or the pre-orders. So so it's usually about that. So if we have Cammy up for pre-order in May or June, expect it to be in customers' hand end of next year or early 2025.
Okay, that makes, yeah. So about what we're used to in that respect. Which yeah, that's about right. But yeah, that's not bad though, because like you said, with the complexity of these, I think it's worth. It'll be worth the wait. That Cammy looks amazing. The Chun-Li is definitely something I'm considering. I know Mario kept poking at me about it too, but well,
yeah, man.
Well, the problem is I'll end up going down that path. you know,
yeah, like it's a bad thing, man.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing by any stretch.
Adib, you mentioned you mentioned that you have some other IPs that were non-video game licensed, something more niche that other companies haven't done yet. But I'm curious. I mean, outside of the still keeping it within the realm of video games, is there any other than the traditional fighting style games? Is there any other IPs that you guys could be looking at, like later down the line? Something towards I don't know. I mean, The Last of Us is pretty hot, fairly recently. I mean, something like that, or what was the other one? Uncharted, or something like that. Some of these other gaming licenses. Are these anything you guys may be interested in later on down the line?
Of course. I mean, again, we did, like, for example, Devil May Cry. So we are also big action game fans. So not necessarily fighting games, but action games as well. I mean, if you ask me personally, I love God of War as well. I would love to do God of War.
That would be amazing, yeah.
And I think if we did it again, I mean, again, not to boast or anything, but I think if we did whatever IP that we do, we want to do our best to try to get the best version of that character out there in terms of high-end stature. So
yeah,
I think the team and I can pull off something that would be will have a presence in people's collection. So yeah, if I could work on God of War, I'd be a happy man. But not just gaming statues in general. I mean, of course, I love games and I enjoy playing games and I love the gaming characters. And along those fighting games and action games for sure. But at the same time, we're all kind of geeks and we enjoy anything and everything that comes out in terms of pop culture, and we would love to work on IPs outside of games as well. And I think I can't say much now, but we are already working on IPs that are non-game related on the back end, which we will announce later in the year and probably launch early next year. And this is also because of the acquisition with 𝗦𝗔𝗩𝗥 or the merger with 𝗦𝗔𝗥, where they have a lot more IPs, and a lot of the IPs that they have, we also are into, and we're actually developing products with them in collaboration with them to launch those launch characters from those IPs. And those IPs have not had many high-end statues. And I think, again, I could be getting in trouble here, but I think we've announced or mentioned in a previous interview where an IP that 𝗦𝗔𝗥 has, for example, Stranger Things. So yeah, so it's an IP that they've already publicly announced that they have, and actually we are working on. Yeah, so it's just to give you an idea of, like, you know.
Okay, and so that's what you're going to be working on.
Yep.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Anthony's suddenly intrigued. I mean, Stranger Things is his jam, man. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, I have the 𝗕𝗘𝗧𝗘𝗘 kids right now, the 6 scales, but yeah, that would
but
be...
you don't want something more high end, bro. You know.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, absolutely. You mentioned. I just want to bring this up because I know I had seen the one that you've done with Ken and Ryu and Akuma before, as a set. Now, for those who haven't seen or are not familiar, I know Mario maybe not so much, but what stood out to me was you have the Terry Bogard here, right?
Yeah.
And the base just like this on the ground, and then you've got Geese right here. So this was intended to be
connectable,
connectable, right? So, which is amazing, by the way. Will you be considering that as well with some of the Street Fighter stuff moving forward?
Yeah, in a sense, like they're not.
Because this looks like it's, you know, it's perfectly.
This was specifically designed to connect perfectly. So I think there's a picture under the Geese gallery that you can actually see both of them. You can scroll to it, I think, if there's a
Let's see.
there.
If we can.
I think at the end there's a picture.
There we go. Look at that.
Yeah. So it's specifically designed to have a very connectable and the similar themed base, so they're almost connecting seamlessly together. But of course, we are like designing Street Fighter and other fighting game statues with similar themes, but may not be exactly perfectly connecting like this, but still similar theme bases where you can put them side by side and they will look like they're part of the same scene.
Yeah, that looks amazing right there. Man, I know, Mario, you haven't played King of Fighters, but
no,
dude.
I appreciate the fire effects though, man. That actually looks proper, like some other pieces that we've referenced in the past, looking like something else.
Oh,
but, yeah.
Yes. No, well, what do you think about it? Do you like pieces like that too, Mario? That connect, that are intentional?
To a degree, I tend to like have something like more, within the proximity. But putting together something like this, I mean, it just expands upon the story that it's actually telling. I mean, looking at this in person, I'm sure is just like, this does look incredible, the way that it's designed to be connected like that. It's not that often where you see too many pieces. I mean, there are a few that are out there, that are designed to be connected like this, but it's few and far between. But this does look really cool.
Yeah, it brings me back. That is absolutely, man. Wow. Okay, so some Stranger Things, huh?
Well, let's not try to get him in trouble, man. He mentioned that he doesn't know if he can actually talk about it. So.
Well, that's all right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just got me thinking about that too, because that's cool. That's like you mentioned. There's not very many, if at all, anything, as far as that IP is concerned. Like, so you get the 3-0 stuff.
Do you have any announcements coming up like at any cons anytime soon, or?
We have there's a con coming up, the LA Anime Expo in July. We won't be present there. We don't have a booth there, but we are working with one of the artists. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ross Chun.
No, not
He's called Ross Draws on Instagram, and he's quite big in YouTube. Ross Tran, ROSSTRAN. So we're working with him to, yeah. So he's quite popular in the art scene, and he's a quite well-known YouTuber. So he's working with us on a project for one of his characters that we will launch at the LA Anime Expo. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at his Instagram right now. Okay. Very. Yeah, I like the art. Wow. Okay, so that'll be.
Can we take a look at it?
Exciting.
Can you share it?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna try to bring it up. I just have to take a moment to share it. Let's see here. Did this come through?
Yep.
There we go. Yeah. Oh, come on. Well, I can't bring them up right now because it's not, but I can try to zoom in a little bit to give you an idea of the art style. Well, that's going to be really cool. And that's at in July?
Yeah. That's if I'm not wrong, it's 1st of July, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, but we're aiming there to launch and showcase what we're working on with him.
That's cool. That is cool. Okay. All right. Well, that's badass. To be able to collab like that, that's really cool.
Yeah. So again, he's one of those kind of artists. Again, similar to 𝗕𝗘𝗥𝗢𝗕, who worked on Chun-Li with us. So we'll be working on also other characters with him. But the one that is being launched in July will be one of his original characters. So that's our starting the first collaboration with him.
That's cool. That's actually really neat to be able to do something like that. So you have a lot of stuff on the horizon then.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our strategies moving forward is also to reveal or make announcements when the product is ready. So previously we used to tease licenses and announce things or show sneak peeks before the product launch. But now it's more like when we have the product ready to launch, that's when we kind of reveal the project. So moving forward, our strategy is like, okay, let's just say the Stranger Things thing we haven't really shown or talked about much, but when the product is ready to launch, that's when we will announce like, hey, here it is, and we actually have this license. So a lot of things are happening in the background, which I haven't or we cannot talk about, but
right.
When it's ready, we want it to be also available for people to, pre-order, so that there's more like impact or hype behind the projects.
Well, yeah, because it's
bold move, if I'm honest. I mean, straight from project to announcement and then availability shortly after. I mean, I would imagine it'd be difficult to kind of gauge the interest of the particular product, and then whether or not some collectors too with that may have a financial situation as well, so that's really bold to do that, but I hope it works out. I really do, because no one's doing that. No one is actually doing that, so that's really going to be interesting to see how that pans out.
I mean, yeah, we used to say like, oh, we have this license and we're working on it, then people would say, oh, I want to see this character from this license, that gives you an interest. But I think we are confident to some degree to know that, okay, people want this character from this license no matter what.
Right. I see what
it's
you're
gonna be
right,
it's a no-brainer. So to be fair, it's not like a big risk, because we have already signed the contract and we're ready to move forward. It's just a matter of get the first popular character, which everybody will want anyway, so get that out of the way, then maybe we can look at, what's the next one we want to do. Then we can get people's inputs and things like that.
No, that makes sense. Gotcha. That's like if you just kind of didn't announce anything at all, and then all of a sudden you're showing off a Ryu, you know, for Street Fighter, for example, right? It's a no-brainer.
Available Friday.
Well, yeah, well, maybe that soon though, right? Because it would still have to go through like actual production and everything as well. But you're just saying rather than just kind of a tease, we're gonna do like a full reveal for the announcement, essentially.
Yeah, so if there's a new license and we're working on the character, which we are at the moment, a lot of different licenses we haven't announced and we're working on them. But when the project is when the prototype is ready for the marketing and launch, you know, of course we don't immediately put everything out there and say, you know, it's available, but more like leading up the few days leading up to the launch, we will kind of start to tease a little bit, and then at the actual launch itself, we will say, oh, you know, this is our new license, and this is our first character from this license, and it's ready to pre-order. So, yeah, that's kind of the strategy moving forward for us.
Gotcha.
And we also don't want to be like, oh, you know, we've announced the project, because these projects take time to develop, like design, go through approvals.
Yeah.
So we don't want a situation where we tease a project or say we have a license, but then the product itself comes out 1 or 2 years later. So the announcement kind of loses its hype, and people might even forget that we have the license. So we don't want a situation like that. So we want like, oh, we have the license. Oh, here's the first product, and if you want it, you know, you can pre-order it now.
Capitalize while the interest is really high. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, I did not know. See, and I didn't even know about that and but she's sold out though, huh?
Yeah, it was about 2 or 3 years ago we launched her and delivered, I think.
Yeah, I was just looking through some of them, and I'm like, okay, yeah, almost everything, right? Yeah, but you're right. Like everything here is, I mean, you sold out pretty much.
Yeah, we usually open pre-orders for a limited period of time, and you know, we kind of make them to order. So you know, within that period of time, whatever orders we get, that's the number we produce and nothing more. So once it's, you know, closed and done with, there's no more reproduction going on.
What's the availability for your pre-order window? I mean, how's that?
Usually it's about a month to 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it should be done, Anthony. That's how it should be done, man. Made to order with a
I agree.
limited window pre-order.
No, I agree. Great. Now, because of that, then there's no is there a specific edition size, or do you just kind of cap it once there's enough interest is there for the pre-order time, and then decide at that point? Or
yeah, so we don't really limit ourselves in terms of edition size, but of course in terms of the numbers, we will announce it after the pre-orders are closed. So once the pre-orders are closed, we know how many we are going to produce, so we don't, you know, nobody's missing out or anything. But at the same time, there's a limited window to place the order. Yeah, and then so the edition size gets announced later on, but the pre-order window is relatively short. Yeah,
I see. So it gives you enough time for, like Mario was saying, here's the announcement. You've got a month or two. Get your pre-orders in. That's typically a wrap, unless, you know, some people have canceled or things of that nature.
Exactly. I mean, in some cases, we might like produce a little bit of extra, and then if people have missed out, or you know, there's a lot of queries like, oh, you know, I didn't get my chance to order during the pre-order period, then we may have some access to, you know, relaunch once the product is already finished in production and we have those limited numbers available.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. That makes sense. So that's exciting then. Wow. There's a lot of, so we've got a lot of different video game IPs and other stuff on the horizon. Pretty exciting. What do you think, Mario? Any of that pique your interest?
I'm always interested in the artistry, man. You know, like I said, you know, some of these stuff I haven't really played, so I really don't have that much connection to. But I'm curious to know, 𝗕𝗘, what are some of your what are some of your anticipated things that are coming out right now? Stuff that's already out for pre-order. What do you look forward to see that'll be going out to the masses?
You mean in terms of our upcoming product line?
Either one, anything that you can actually talk about. What are you like personally excited to see?
I'm definitely eager to see how's the reception for our Cammy, for sure. And also, as you were showing just a while ago, the geese statue that goes with the Terry, so that's going to be shipped out to customers pretty soon or so. So we're excited for that. Yeah, but I would say Cammy is something that we're really looking forward to. And of course, the Demitri new variant that we're going to launch this week. We'd love to see how whether people have interest in that new variant. It's also a bit of a different different format for us. So because we have usually just one variant and not that many other variants, but this is the first time we're kind of offering a different variant of an existing statue. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out as well.
Interesting.
Well, with more to come too. I mean, I'm interested in seeing more Darkstalkers for sure. Obviously, Cammy, that's a big one. So, but that'll be a 1.5 years ish from announcement. So that means we would have, like you said, a month or two for people to pre-order, get kind of locked in.
Yeah. So if we launch the pre-orders for Cammy in May, the pre-orders will probably run until June, and then the actual product will be shipped in 2024 or early 2025. So the turnaround time is usually 1.5 to 2 years.
Okay. Well, and that's not bad either. I mean, when you look at the Chun-Li, it's your retail set there for 800, which is a good price, I think, for something like that in the quarter scale. So I think the pricing is just right too. I think people, as we can see, like everything's been sold out once it's hit. And
yeah, I think another approach for us is also the price point. We want to offer more affordable price points because high-end statue prices are going crazy, and we want to be something which is a bit more affordable for people, doesn't take up too much space, but at the same time, it's something that you want. It's something that represents the characters the best.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I'll agree with that. The price, as you mentioned, prices are getting kind of crazy out there. So to be able to have what you're saying there, have that representation at an affordable price that's what people want. At the end of the day.
In this day and age, when we're seeing quarter scale prices creeping up to the third scale price range, is a little concerning. So the fact that you're trying to keep the price range as low as possible is appreciated, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I myself collect, and unfortunately, I don't have as much space anymore to collect more new stuff. But I mean, to be fair, also the prices of materials and production costs have gone up. Not to mention shipping prices have gone up as well. The costs have definitely gone up. So it's not like high-end statue companies are charging premiums for no reason. I mean, the prices and costs have gone up. But at the same time, we understand, being collectors ourselves, is that, there has to be a point of entry where, people don't feel they're, breaking their bank to get,
right, especially with multiple pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
So not everybody buys one, or just a statue, and they're like, I'm done buying statue. It doesn't. Yeah, people like to have more than one to add to it. So, no, that is very cool. I know it's getting a little bit late on our end. I do obviously appreciate coming in and talking about with everything. Was there anything else, Mario, that you had questions about, or anything moving forward, or?
No, I think that's basically it, man. It was a pleasure to chat with you. Get to know more about the company. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's super exciting. It's super exciting. So, oh no, of course, and I'm looking forward to the Cammy reveal. There's a lot. I want to see more the Darkstalkers. I think this is a really exciting time. This is a really exciting time for us out here, us fighting game fans, and everybody in the chat who is watching. I know they're very interested. If obviously the website is here in the description. Is there anywhere else they should follow, like an Instagram maybe, or some kind of social media that
Yeah, I mean,
we're active on, or
we are on all the social media. So if you go on our website, you can see all the various social media we're on. So you can just follow us on the one you prefer. So
okay,
Facebook,
perfect.
Instagram, and all that.
Oilers Workshop says Morgan, please. Need a good. Oh, that's interesting too. Actually, is something about Soul Calibur an option maybe down the road, or something to consider?
Yeah, it's something that falls along the line of products that we do. I mean, internally, we are not big Soul Calibur or even Tekken fans. I mean, we appreciate those games for sure, but not as big of a. It's not as close to our hearts like Street Fighter, King of Fighters, and all that. So, but who knows? I mean, maybe we will someday work on those, like to kind of expand on the fighting game licenses.
Right.
I wouldn't never say never.
Yeah. Is a Mortal Kombat out of range?
Oh, damn, man.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's close. That's close to my heart as well. Oh man, I would love to work on that. Again, it's something. Yeah, it's something that we would definitely love to work on. I mean, we don't have the license right now, but I personally can tell you that I would love to work on Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I would bet. Yeah, I would bet. Only because I mean I've been seeing Storm Collectibles putting out their 12 scales and 6 scales, and you got PCS doing their 3rd scales, and so I didn't know if there's an opportunity out there maybe down the road. But it sounds like you're definitely interested in it. I mean, I think a lot of people would be. It's Mortal Kombat.
I mean, I know like there's been a lot of Mortal Kombat statues. I mean, out there, not that many for high-end collectibles, I guess. But I mean, if we were to do it, I would crush it. Like we would crush it. I think.
Hell yeah.
Because we love the games. Yeah. It's
right, and that's what it's all about. Having the passion behind everybody is what makes it. I'm telling you that the Chun-Li, that Cammy, I can tell like everybody is a fan of this moving inward. You can just tell by that. Like you said, there's a lot of statues, some that are just kind of bland or kind of plain looking, and that might be okay. But when I see stuff like that, I'm like, okay, you guys know you're passionate about the IP. And that's, I think, what the fans want to see, right? That's what people look at the most.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm usually the one on camera talking about Kinetiquettes and our products, but to be honest, it's not just me. There's so many people behind the scenes. There's the team. There's our art director. There's a design director. I'm just the creative director, and I do some of the sculpting and painting of our prototypes. But without all the guys working and the team, all the different artists and sculptors that we work with, our products wouldn't be where they are or how they are. So I think I mean, you get to see my mug face, but the guys are the ones who do the stuff, who do the hard work and put out the product. So it's not just me doing everything, or all the credit shouldn't go to me.
No, of course. No, there's a great talented team there. I can't wait. So for those of you guys who are just joining in, we're probably going to wrap, but if you guys want to check out on the replay, and again, the website is in the link below, and you can follow it any of your preferred social media. Cammy, definitely want to see some more of her. She was one of my favorite. And it's cool that it was alpha. I like that. I like how you have the liberty to go any which way you want within the IP of Street Fighter. So that's also really, really cool. That way, that's because like I like what Iconics doing, but again, it's Street Fighter 5, right? So it's just that, So I often wondered that, I was like, well, if they make another figure, it's going to be Street Fighter 5 then. You see, so being able to say, oh, look, that's Street Fighter Alpha. That's okay. That's cool. I like that. You're not confined
more
to
appealing.
Just. Yeah, it's just more appealing. Is what I'm saying. So cool. All right, guys. Well, I think we're probably going to wrap. So appreciate everybody tuning in. And thank you, of course, for coming in and talking about everything that's coming up. Super excited to see what the next year is going to show. Darkstalkers, we talk. Yes, Darkstalkers, more Street Fighter. I'm telling you, that stuff. I mean, I grew up with all of this too, so I'm super looking forward to seeing everything that's coming.
Yep. Thanks for having me too. It was a fun discussion.
No, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap. Thank you for joining everybody in here. Great interview. Thank you. I see old 1/6 collector just came in, but yep, we're just about wrapping, but definitely awesome. And we'll probably talk again. That'd be great. Well,
sure.
Maybe when we got Cammy, we can talk a little bit more about Cammy when she's ready to be debuted.
Happy to come on again.
Officially.
No problem.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day, evening. I know it's anywhere in the world where we're watching, but you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you guys in the next one. See you later.